And back to those comments about Syrian refugees, they come just as we finish a year-long journey here. We've been following Syrian refugees living right here in the U.S. They had no idea that they would be here amid terror attacks in Paris and elsewhere, and the growing anger right here at home. And we traveled to Amman tonight to ask who is vetting the Syrian refugees about to come to America. And you're about to see it all for yourself. This journey begins 1 year ago, the first day of school in one American town. And for this new first grader, that nervous look back. Chrysler Elementary School, Modesto, California, and the welcome they've been practicing in the main office. Hala is 6 years old. Her home back in Syria is now burned to the ground.
It says, "Welcome, Hala."
And on her first grade door here in America,
Can you read that?
a sign in Arabic.
Miss Sabu, we come out through. I'd love to introduce you to
Salam alaikum. Everyone say salam alaikum. This is Hala.
Hi, Hala.
Hala is very special because she is not from America. This is where Syria is.
And our cameras roll as the children begin to ask simple questions about the girl named Hala.
What happened to Syria?
Yeah.
Syria, there's some not so good things happening right now in Syria. America right now is a safe place for them to be.
But no one could have predicted what was about to happen in towns across America when terror strikes around the world.
We're letting in people that can potentially hurt our society as a whole.
How did it get to this point? Last September, we were there when Hala's family arrived on that flight to America.
I say I'm very happy from my bottom to be here in America.
A crash course on life in America, how not to flood the dishwasher, how to use the washer and dryer, how to get to Walmart. And then there's Hala, who is taking it all in.
Which one do you like, Hala? Do you feel safe in America?
But 43 days after they arrive in the U.S., this. The attacks in Paris. One of the attackers using a fake Syrian passport, posing as a refugee.
This has got to stop. They don't want to be Americans.
The political pressure mounts.
The way the mayor did this was underhanded and conniving.
We have to say hold back.
And suddenly, 32 governors announced they will halt Syrian refugees. And that Syrian family in Modesto is listening.
Listen, they could be ISIS. I don't know. If I win, they're going back. They're going back. I'm telling you. They're going back.
And so we travel the 7,400 miles from Modesto, California to Amman, Jordan, to see the vetting process for ourselves. And through this doorway, we immediately discover a crush of humanity.
So they come through here?
Yes.
Gina Qasim is with the U.S. State Department.
And they're brought into a security screening area.
For a vetting process that can last 2 years. And through the windows, we can see family after family being interviewed.
How can you possibly learn everything about a family through an interview?
I'd say that the interviewers are very highly trained. They are trained to look both not at the documentation, but also for the credibility behind the applicant's story.
But when you say documentation, I mean, this is Syria. They've been at war for years now. What kind of documentation do they have, if any?
Surprisingly, 97% of all adult applicants in our pipeline have valid Syrian documentation.
And inside this room, the Syrian families who have just been told they're next. This is cultural orientation, where they're taught about their new home, America. She shows them a picture of a couple kissing in public. The next lesson about America, the melting pot. They're asked a simple question. Which of these faces are American?
For Americans who are worried about refugees coming to the U.S.,
We are humans like you. We want to be one of you. ممكن تقبلونا بس.
And tonight on Nightline, you will see what happens in that town here in America where they were so welcoming to the refugees just 1 year ago. No one saw this coming, including us. That's later tonight. We hope you'll watch or DVR Nightline and then tweet us afterward. We want to know where you stand.
This is a special edition of Nightline. Flashpoint, Refugees in America. Tonight, a year-long journey. The Syrian refugees who now call America home, and the Americans who want them out. David Muir across this country and from Amman, Jordan. Who's vetting the Syrian refugees? Who are the champions of those children here at home?
I do not think that hate and fear should redefine who we are.
This special edition of Nightline will be right back. This is a special edition of Nightline. Flashpoint, Refugees in America.
This journey begins 1 year ago, the first day of school in one American town. And for this new first grader, that nervous look back.
Don't line up, friends.
Chrysler Elementary School, Modesto, California.
Hi, Hala.
And the welcome they've been practicing in the main office. Two sisters signing in, their passports on the counter. Hala is 6 years old. Her home back in Syria is now burned to the ground.
It says, welcome house.
And on her first grade door here in America,
Can you read that?
a sign in Arabic.
Hello, salam alaikum. Everyone say salam alaikum. This is Hala.
Hi, Hala.
Hala is very special because she is not from America. This is where Syria is.
And our cameras roll as the children begin to ask simple questions about the girl named Hala.
What happened to Syria?
Yeah.
Syria, there's some not so good things happening right now in Syria. America right now is a safe place for them to be.
But no one could have predicted what was about to happen in towns across America when terror strikes around the world.
We're letting in people that can potentially hurt our society as a whole.
And all of it comes after this, that haunting picture of a Syrian boy, his body washing up on the beach, the humanitarian crisis exploding. What to do with the Syrian refugees? Just weeks after that searing image last September, we were there when Hala's family arrived on that flight to America.
He say I'm very happy from my bottom to be here in America.
A crash course on life in America.
Vaccination record, lease agreement,
From World Relief,
I-94.
a resettlement agency, how not to flood the dishwasher, how to use the washer and dryer, how to get to Walmart. We notice a smile when she discovers a familiar spice. And then there's Hala, who is taking it all in.
Which one do you like, Hala?
This is where the buses will stop. You'll see a stop like this.
Every bus.
Yeah, every bus has a number.
And there they sit, on a journey in their new country. And we were about to check in. How are they now doing on their own?
David, how are you? Can you give me 5?
Then down the short hallway to the bedrooms shared by the children.
May I see?
And Hala's older sister, Hala, already proud to show me her school notebook for geography.
Syria? Yeah. Do you miss home?
Yeah, I miss home.
You miss home. This is your room?
Yeah.
And where do you sleep?
And we noticed something.
Is that your school picture?
Yeah.
I like how you put your hand on your hip.
Her first sign of confidence, as her older sisters are now tested, walking into high school in America.
We're going to test them, their English ability.
Put a line there, then that's P.
Refugees from the Middle East arrive without even fully the ability to write.
High school teacher Lindsay Bird runs the Language Institute, embracing young refugees.
I'm from Kabul, Afghanistan.
I'm from Yemen.
I'm from Vietnam.
So Maria is also from Syria.
And Maria would be a lifeline for those sisters who escaped war. And back in Hala's class.
Okay. Say yellow. This one. Yellow. Say yellow. Yellow. Red. Okay.
The disconnect is daunting.
There were a few mornings that she cried probably for a good hour and a half.
Hala lost in her new world. But her father still remembers when Hala was hurt in Syria, and there was no help to be found.
بنتي عم تنزف طول الليل بموت الواحد هو عم بيتفرج بعيونه.
Do you feel safe in America?
But 45 days after they arrive in the U.S., this. The attacks in Paris. One of the attackers using a fake Syrian passport, posing as a refugee.
This has got to stop. They don't want to be Americans.
The political pressure mounts.
The way the mayor did this was underhanded and conniving.
We have to say no to that.
And suddenly, 32 governors announced they will halt Syrian refugees. And that Syrian family in Modesto is listening.
Listen, they could be ISIS. I don't know. If I win, they're going back. They're going back. I'm telling you. They're going back.
And in Boise, Idaho, we witness a flashpoint.
This is about safety of our citizens, our state, and our country.
Protesters angry over President Obama's plan to accept 10,000 Syrian refugees.
We're not racist.
The other side of the street, we welcome refugees.
You are the terrorists. You. Why are you bringing fear?
The protesters asking, how can we be sure who we're letting in?
We better watch our backs. And where's Donald Trump when we need him today? Well, where's Donald?
And living in that same town, Asma El-Bukai, a Syrian refugee, a mother, whose husband was kidnapped in Syria, never to be seen again. She is now sensing danger here.
I start to see people acting differently. I really lock the doors, lock the windows, because somebody can attack us just because we are Muslim or because we are Syrian.
And then her son is attacked.
He asked if they are Muslim or not, and my son, he said, yes, I'm Muslim. Then the American guy, he punched him in his face. And he said, if I will see you in downtown, I will kill you.
Court is now in session. State of Idaho versus Christopher Love.
The 25-year-old is charged with a hate crime and pleads guilty to a lesser charge.
Obviously, Mr. Love
Sentenced to 68 days in jail. Hate crimes against Muslims are now at their highest level since 9/11. When we come back, we travel to Amman, Jordan, the crush of Syrian families waiting to come to America. But who is vetting them?
What kind of documentation do they have, if any?
And back in Modesto, the community suddenly closing in.
Keep them out of our county.
And the tearful teacher defending them.
I do not think that hate and fear should redefine who we are as Americans.
Thank you.
From Boise to Burlington to Dallas, the protests, the anger growing in America.
If you want to help somebody that's outside this door right here. You don't need to go any further than that.
But the family of Syrian refugees we've been following never thought it would come to Modesto.
Refugee, everyone.
We watch as the teachers here suddenly change their lesson plans.
Raise your hand if you are aware of the attacks that happened in Paris. There's been a lot of very strong opinions on whether the United States should allow Syrian refugees into our country.
Donald Trump, he said that if he wins, he's going to send all Syrian refugees back. That's sad.
Why do you think that's sad?
Because like they're over here, they're all safe, and then they're going to send them back so some of their family members got killed over there.
Aya sits there with her head down.
All right, good afternoon, boys and girls.
But amid the simmering anger and suspicion across this country, we find 6-year-old Hala now preparing for her first Thanksgiving.
Mr. Turkey, gobble, gobble, who is that? Mr. Turkey, big and fat.
And Ala, who is still struggling with her English, is about to bravely tell Mrs. Bird's high school class about the horror her family endured and why, for her first Thanksgiving, she is truly thankful.
My uncle and his family fled from Syria by sea. Their boat sank, and his wife, 2 sons, and 2 daughters dead.
But her fate here in America has been far different.
I am also thankful for the United States of America for the reception of the refugees.
Very good. Excellent. We want to make sure
that our students don't ever turn to hate.
If you have any power at all, keep them out of our county. Thank you.
And we witness the anger now erupting right here in Modesto.
They're going to use this refugee resettlement to put their terrorist operatives in other nations.
Mary Roberson, a mother, a grandmother, now organizing the protest.
We don't know who they are or what they are. Syria doesn't even have the proper documentation.
And right there, Mrs. Bird, who finds herself not in her classroom, but at that podium.
I would like you to meet these students. I would like you to see their value. I do not think that hate and fear should redefine who we are as Americans.
When you hear some of the rhetoric in this country, you smile.
I would welcome those individuals into my classroom. It's obviously spoken from ignorance. I would invite anybody who subscribes to that mentality to spend one day in my classroom.
Open invitation.
Open invitation.
She says, my classroom door is open at any time. Have you ever gone to one of those classes to see who these young people are?
No, I have not.
What would you say to the families that we've met, the refugees, who simply point out that they're fleeing ISIS too?
Okay, what I'm saying is we don't know who they truly are.
So where do we put them?
We need to put them in a place until we figure it out. I don't care if it's a camp, whatever.
And she points to what the FBI director, James Comey, has said himself about vetting refugees.
I describe it as a process that's gotten a lot better, but that we can't tell you is risk-free.
And so we travel the 7,400 miles from Modesto, California to Amman, Jordan, to see the vetting process for ourselves. Here in Jordan, across the Syrian border, there are more than 600,000 Syrian refugees, and despite the backlash back in the U.S., so many of them are still desperate for the chance to go to America. And through this doorway, we immediately discover a crush of humanity. Refugee families already screened by the UN, now waiting to be interviewed by the U.S.
How many interviews?
Actually, 5.
5 interviews. So they come through here?
Yes.
Gina Qasim is with the U.S. State Department.
And they're brought into a security screening area.
For a vetting process that can last 2 years. We are taken to a hallway lined with small rooms, and through the windows, we can see family after family being interviewed.
How can you possibly learn everything about a family through an interview?
I'd say that the interviewers are very highly trained. They are trained to look both not at the documentation, but also for the credibility behind the applicant's story.
But when you say documentation, I mean, this is Syria, but they've been at war for years now. What kind of documentation do they have, if any?
Surprisingly, 97% of all adult applicants in our pipeline have valid Syrian documentation.
From here, they are screened through the terrorist watch list. The intelligence database is back in the U.S., and Homeland Security makes the final decision.
Are there times when it will flag you to a particular family and they get pulled?
Absolutely. The applicants are actually at the airport, and we've had to prevent them from boarding the plane.
And tonight, the U.S. State Department says of the 840,000 refugees admitted to the U.S. since 9/11, a, quote, tiny fraction of 1% have been arrested or removed because of terrorism concerns. Critics say still too many. And inside this room, the Syrian families who've just been cleared for America. This is cultural orientation, where they're taught about their new home. The teacher asks them what's allowed in the U.S. and what's forbidden. She shows them a picture of a couple kissing in public. She asks them about drinking in America. And then she asks about polygamy, asking if it's legal in America. They begin to clap. The next lesson about America, the melting pot. They're asked a simple question. Which of these faces are American?
دنزل واشنطن ممثل أمريكي بيونسي هل ضروري الأمريكي اللي عينيه زرق وأبيض وأشقر.
These families leaving within days.
How many of you are excited to go to the United States? Give me one word that describes America to you.
The land of chances.
The land of chances. For Americans who are worried about refugees coming to the U.S.,
We are humans like you. We want to be one of you. ممكن تقبلونا بس.
And we wondered if they had any questions for us.
في حال فاز دونالد ترامب بالانتخابات شو بيضمن حقنا انه احنا نضل هنيك ما بصير يرجعنا او يأذينا هنيك.
we'll take that question with us back to the United States.
And we journey across Oman to find one more family. We're about to witness the moment they get their answer. Their home bombed in Syria. They show me their homemade swing in the hallway. The children miss their playground back home.
This is your playground.
Yes.
The U.S. State Department then tells them they're next.
That on September 6th, you will travel to Kansas City, Missouri.
We watch as it sets in, and then a question for us. We show them on a map.
Kansas City is a beautiful city. It's a beautiful city, and the baseball team, they won the World Series.
A smile from the son who loves sports, but we notice tears from one of the children. Her mother tells us she is sad to leave her friends yet again.
David Muir joins us now. Love that line, the land of chances. You had a chance to talk to one of the refugees who had a question for Donald Trump that you brought back to the States.
Yeah, we said we would, and we interviewed Trump in recent days, and we asked him about Syrian refugees. He said, done, no more, done. Those were his words, Byron. And he went on to say, we have no idea if they're ISIS related. We should point out that Hillary Clinton says that she has long been an advocate for stronger vetting, and her campaign says she continues to support the notion that we should be accepting Syrian refugees.
And tell us about little Hala.
Hala, I know the little one. I remember at the beginning, she couldn't even say yellow in that class. It was so daunting for those teachers. You've got to see how this ends.
All right. More when we come back.
This special edition of Nightline is brought to you by Red Lobster.
Time and temperature from TD Bank.
Back in Modesto, California, that high school, the home of the Spartans, the question at the end of every school year, who will win the Spartan Award?
The Spartan Award is a very special award, as each teacher and staff member has the opportunity to nominate one student. Next is Miss America Aljawabra. She was nominated by Miss Lindsay Bird. Miss Bird had this to say: she has poured her heart and soul into mastering English. She is a true role model for all students. Congratulations.
One very proud mom.
بس هي آلاء يعني كانت مجتهدة بس إنه يعني يكرموها ويصير هيك لا.
Did you think at the beginning of this school year you would end the year with the medal?
No. When I came to her, I didn't know anything in English.
And look at you now.
I speak English.
Yellow. Say yellow.
And then there's Hala,
Yellow.
who seemed so lost in that classroom when we first met her a year ago. Just listen to her English now.
To the flag of the United States of America.
The Pledge of Allegiance with perfection. And despite the fierce debate that continues to rage on tonight, Hala and the song she learned to celebrate her new home.
This land was made for you and me.
Our thanks to David and his team. Their reporting reminds us we're a nation of immigrants and refugees, this land of chances. It was President Abraham Lincoln who said, "My dream is of a place at a time where America will once again be seen as the last best hope on earth." Thank you for watching ABC News. Good night, America.